Are you here staying for someone?
Our last one hasn't been coming, so I think he got kicked out of the house.
Oh, really?
But his place.
Okay. So, gotcha.
Oh, for a second I thought you did Rosary, and I'm like, no, she's gonna be like,
No, I did. I'm just hesitant to loan out pens, but that's actually one that I stole from students. So
Okay.
you can keep it.
I am more than happy to use it.
No, it's fine.
No, I had like, I moved everything in my backpack, so it's all because puzzles are now.
Yeah.
Go ahead and come to order. Run a little bit late, had a little trouble with the webcast, but it seems to be working now. At least I hope so. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the agenda for the previous minutes? No motion. Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. So on the first order of business, presentation from our Community Affairs Programming Mentorship Panel Workshop, presentation for the Solution Mentorship Network. And with that, I can turn it over to the organizers, or Lacey.
So this is Jeannie, and she is the director of the Career Development Center. She's going to share that SIU has a platform called the Solution Mentorship Network, and she's going to share what that is, how we can get on it, and the benefits that we can take.
Hello, everyone. So, as anyone here heard of the Solution Mentor Network? New to everyone. Yay, one person. Can you see from where you are? So, we are going to use Lacey's red map. That's beautiful. So I want to give you a little bit of a history as to what how the Solution Mentor Network came about. It's actually a few years ago, there were some people on campus who really thought it was important that we connected our current students with our alumni. And it took a couple of years of committees, big surprise, for it to kind of come around to where we figured out what platform would be best to support this kind of interaction. So we came across back in April of 2018 a platform called Wiser, which has this wonderful feature of connecting our current students with our alumni in a couple different ways. So there's a couple different ways are one-on-one. So as a student, you can connect with an alumni, with each other, one-on-one in a mentor relationship with an alum. You can also connect in a group format through a community. So those are the two different ways, one-on-one and in a group, that you can connect with alumni. So I think everybody here probably knows the significance of being able to connect with alums, yes? Okay. So what you have to do, it's very, very simple. You can go to siu.wiser, and it's just WISR.io. So siu.wisr.io. And it should be a single sign-on. I'm a little unsure about law students if it's a single sign-on, but if not, don't worry. Just create an account and I will preview tomorrow or tonight, whichever. You can connect once you start logging in. It'll ask you some questions to kind of get to know you. And it will connect you with a LinkedIn account if you already have one. So if you have a LinkedIn account, you can press a little button and it will automatically fill in your profile with the information from your LinkedIn account, so you don't have to refill it in. It's a wonderful feature. Everybody here have a LinkedIn account? Makes it so much nicer. So, what happened was, back in August, when we decided to kind of start this off, is we sent a mass email to all students and said, hey, guess what? We have this new platform, you should join. And then we sent an email to thousands of alumni and said, hey, guess what? We want you to mentor our current students. And we have a response of about 1,200 alumni in the system already who have said, yes, I would really like to mentor a student. When they go in and decide that they want to mentor, they're filling out the same profile that you're filling out. For example, here, go to, so this is Lacey's actual profile. So you can see here that has her about me. You can have your resume in here. You can kind of look at your clubs and organizations. So saying that you are a member of an organization on campus, and then you become an alum, you can connect with an alum who is also part of that organization. So you can connect through those types of things. It's got current goals, and then kind of like your little resume here, career interests, and then how can you help? And then you can also control your privacy. So anyone can see it, only certain people, only people that I reach out to. Now, this how can I help? It's kind of an interesting little feature. Is everybody following me so far? Okay. This how can I help? When an alumni goes into the system, one of the questions is, how are you willing to help a student? So they can decide, do they want to help you with reviewing your resume? Are they willing to give you suggestions on what classes to take? Are they willing to help you learn about a new city? Find an externship or job shadow, find an internship? How are they willing to help you? You know before, when you go to somebody's profile, what they're willing right off the bat to help you with. So you don't have to guess, which is really nice. But even as a grad student or another, even undergrad student, you can also help each other. So Lacey has kindly volunteered to help people develop their career-related skills. So if someone says, oh yeah, I would like Lacey to do that, she has volunteered. So you can help each other as well, right? All right, so how does this match you? Well, it's magic, obviously. It's basing it on the industry you've chosen, your specialization. It's looking for similarities, obviously. And when you go back to the main page, you can see that this is where it does the matching. It's kind of like a dating site, right? So it's matched Lacey with people who are similar to her right here. So these are her matches. Now, she can look at them and say, oh, this person shares these interests with me. They're willing to help me. I can send them a message. I can schedule a call. One of the beauties about this system is that you do not have to share your personal information. So if you would like to reach out to someone, you send a message, it actually goes through the system. But it will go to your personal email address. So you don't have to log in just to get the message. So it'll set up to go to your email, but it filters through this. Does that make sense? Same thing with a phone call. So you can actually set up a phone call through here, and it'll give you the information to make it private, right? Some codes and stuff like that. So say she's like, I'm interested in this Stephanie person. So she can click on Stephanie. And she can learn all about Stephanie. Now we have Stephanie's profile page. And we can see what Stephanie is willing to help with. all stuff needs information and specialization. And again, send the message or schedule a call. Alright? But maybe she looks at all of this and she, I'm not used to Macs. And she looks at all of our matches. Oh, I want to do matches.
Oh, really?
She looks at all of our matches and she's like, I don't like any of these people. I don't want to be matched with any of them. You have quite a few matches here. So we'd be very picky if you said that. But if you said that, that's okay. All you have to do is go up here and do a search. And you can search for people in the system even if they're not matched with you. So you can do this one of two ways. You can either put in a keyword search. Say you wanted to look up law. Now, because I just put the word law, it's got people with law in their name. It's going to have people who practice law. So if you want to filter that more, you might want to go over here. You can look at people who have different majors, job titles, location. If they're student, alumni, parents, staff, faculty, or supporter. Those are all the different ways people can come into the system. Okay? So students, alumni, parents, staff, faculty, and supporters. The ways that they're willing to help. So maybe you go in and say, I want someone who's going to help me find an internship. Click that button. Does that make sense? So if you don't want to give any sort of keyword at all, get out of this completely. Just click the little search button without putting any word in there, and then just go straight from here. So that'll give you, there's over 1,200 members in here right now. So that'll give you a clean slate to work from to do searches. I will tell you right now, there are some really, really cool people in here. Some really interesting alums in there. Yeah?
And I can search by location?
You can.
How, will it do like LinkedIn does and say greater St. Louis area?
Yes. Yes. So,
St. Louis, what you're thinking?
No, I was just wondering for, if you went to on the outskirts of the city.
yeah. So like, if I put Chicago, the greater Chicago area. And there are people all over the world, right? So, I don't know. I'm just going to pick a random country. So I'm putting France. Hey, there's somebody in France. There's someone in France. So you can find people everywhere. It's just, I don't know. I'm really excited about this system. So we've just been building this since August, and I will be honest with you, we just hired the person to run this and got permission for all that and got that all pushed through Thanksgiving week. So that person has been running our extern program, and we'll be focusing on this as soon as the extern program is over and building this and building up all the communities and doing all that. So this is just kind of our first initial push. So that expect this to really grow and be filled in with tons of alumni and current students. Okay. Thoughts on that? Yes.
I will say, as a thing for you guys to add, like when I type, it says add an organization for SIU, I can't put in GPSC in.
Okay.
So, because it only lets you save it if it's like pre-programmed from the system, I think.
Yeah, we didn't pre-program anything, so it should accept everything.
Okay, cool.
But if you find any glitches, do let me know. Yes.
Can you repeat the web address again, please?
Yes. SIU.wisr.io.
Okay.
And if you search the Lucky Mentorship Network, it'll come up. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. The second part of this that you guys might find interesting is the group component. So if you go to Explore, there's an opportunity for you to build communities. So these are just some pilot communities that we started. There is room to go wild with this. Right now we have, these are all communities that are led right now by faculty or staff on campus. We've got everything from college focus, like MCMA has LLC, College of Liberal Arts LLC, to, anybody know Jeff McBoy? Jeff McBoy is our assistant student. He's running Dream Chasing 101. You know how he does a lot of motivational talks. He's very inspirational. So he wanted to run a group just kind of like following your passion. Research Sleuths, this is actually led by Elaine Jerkowski, a faculty member. Everybody know her? Social work. She really felt like there should be more opportunities for undergraduate students to gain research experience before they go to grad school. So she's running this group to help them gain opportunities to build that experience for their grad school applications. So these are just some of the things that these faculty and staff felt passionate about. So when I got this group together, I said, what is your passion? What would you like to lead? And they picked their passion. But this can go a lot of different ways. I can envision groups where you take an organization like this, get all of your alums that ever were a part of it as, you know, advisory board, right? And put together a group where you have all of you in there together. You can make it private because there are different settings, privacy settings, and then have conversations and discussions within the system if you wanted to. Within each system, there's a place, like there's a private, you can make it public, you can make it invite only. You can set it up to where you can have discussion boards. There's a place for files, so like have documents that you share, and events. You can have it a mixture of students and alumni. You can have it all students, and I do have, the only kind of stipulation I have for these groups is that there's somebody that's a full-time staff member that is at least one of the leaders of the group, just for consistency. So when people are graduating, you know that there's still someone that's there to maintain the group. But other than that, you know, everything else is just basic, like be nice to each other kind of stuff. But there's a lot of room for creativity here. I'm sure there are types of groups that I haven't even thought of that could be built. The law school could have their own group, you know, or whatever. So, I'm gonna keep going to you because I talked to you guys before I started. So those are kind of the two different things. So we've got the individual mentoring and we have the group mentoring. And you guys, I welcome all of you to jump in and start playing around with it. As soon as you graduate, this you will automatically be flipped over to the alumni side, so you can stay connected. One of the first things that I thought was really cool, the first thing we did was we pulled in all the alums before we even connected the students, and it was like a reunion. So everybody was in there saying like, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you. Looking at people from when they went to school, trying to find people that they, you know, hadn't seen for years. It was really kind of cool. So, just some thoughts. But feel free to discuss, let me know. I'm happy to help set up anything that you guys want, answer any questions. I want you guys to use this in any way that works for you.
Did you say that undergraduate role too?
Yes. Undergraduates and graduates are all in there, so you can see each other. Yes. It will populate just so like when you're in there, it may connect you, it may match you with undergrads, grads, and alum in your list. Just based on interest. You guys get decided to like, I'll take on a couple of undergrads, good tea, something like that. Just an idea. Whatever you think. Questions? Ideas? Enthusiasm?
Actually, I have some questions about that.
Oh, okay, sure. You guys want me to talk about that?
What exactly programs does the extension cover, or what locations? Is it here in SU?
Yeah. So the extern program, we started the extern program and we sent out a thing. One of the things we did was when we sent out the invitation to this, we sent the invitation out to sponsors. So when we did that, there was no limitation on location, right? We just sent it out to all the alums and said, hey, you guys want to be an extern sponsor? And I started getting calls from alums in other countries. They're like, sure. And I'm like, I don't know if I can send anybody. Like, I literally had a guy in France. That's why France came to mind. That said, hey, I'll take somebody for a week. I'm like, I don't know if I have anybody that I can send you for a week in France. And he was retired UN, United Nations. His wife had been in United Nations and he was retired. And he's like, I have this chateau in the south of France and I'm here all by myself alone and retired. Can you send someone to basically hang out with me? And I'm like, so he came to town a month later and I'm like, let's have lunch and make sure you're not, yeah, that's really great. And he wasn't, he was actually really cool. But yeah, so they're all over the place. They're just everywhere. So it's just another volunteer. So there are mostly alums, but there are some employers that have heard of our program that really do like to support. So they'll say, hey, can I do this too? So it's a combination. Does that answer your question? Okay.
And so one of the questions I have is just as a follow-up, so our reps can communicate this back with everyone in their departments. Is there a PDF or like a one sheet or a web page you give like a quick overview that they can share with those back in their departments?
I think there's on our website we have a little bit of a summary. It's not a PDF. I can probably get one together for you guys because we're getting ready to do some marketing materials for it. And you have to give me a little bit of time.
Okay.
But I'll be happy to share all of our marketing materials and get that put together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you just get back to us, and, send it along over to the reps. Get it back to the departments. Well, any more questions on the Mentorship Network?
You guys like it? Yeah. Think you're good? Okay.
Thank you so much.
I have a couple of cards here if anybody wants them.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have a couple of handouts that have some of our just basic contact information if anybody wants those too. All right. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right. Well, continue to move along. A little bit of old business. Nominations were submitted for the Student Trustee Election Board. I got those in on February 15th. The deadline, we sent forward nominations for Abdul Samad, Alex Davenport, and Anna Wilcoxon for our nominees to the Student Trustee Election Board. And I don't see any issues with that. Those should be accepted. Can't imagine there's any questions or anything. Just keep moving forward. So wanted to follow up on that bit of business from the last meeting with the parking in one of the red lots near the communications building when that last snow. I did follow up with that with the director for, I'm forgetting the term, but it's something in service. Plant in service is what it is. I followed up with the director of that area. And as far as I know, we didn't hear anything about any damaged cars, but there was some weirdness with the parking in it. The feedback I got was the idea that there just wasn't really enough snow, so they didn't necessarily clear the parking lot, and it did lead to some cars parking in the wrong spot. There was actually an image of it. Essentially, the feedback on that is they are responsive to hearing those things, and so if something like that happens, any kind of trouble in a parking lot, the easiest thing to do to get reconciled is just call out the Department of Public Safety, and they can refer that as they need. So if it's an issue like it was on that day, was folks parked in the throughway for the parking lot, just go ahead and call the Department of Public Safety. And then, so the Salukis in Springfield program from the last meeting, the authorization for that funding is going forward. We do leave tomorrow morning. I believe we've got about 8 or 9 graduate professional students that are signed up to go. In total, I believe we have currently, the last count last night's meeting was 24 students that are going. That may be a few additions after the last 24 hours. I didn't get the updated list this afternoon. But that continues to go forward. We'll leave. We've got a number of different things within a package that we're leaving at different persons' offices. We've got a few meetings scheduled up, and it should be a pretty good day. Really excited about it. And does anybody have any questions on that? Otherwise, we'll just keep going forward. Thanks. It's I guess there will be a lot of stuff on social media for it. Oh, and that's confirmation that I was looking for. We are expected to actually meet with the governor tomorrow as well. That got scheduled in large part due to the efforts of Breon Lockett, our student trustee here. So after the State of the State, it's expected that we will meet with the governor and have to talk a little bit. So it is coming together. Be a good day. All right. See nothing on those. I'll move on to new business. So we do need to get things set up for elections for GPSC in the next year. We did nominate Jordan as the election commissioner in the previous meeting, and I wanted to formally submit for our consideration dates for nominations for those offices. We'll elect a president, the vice president for administrative affairs, and a vice president for graduate school affairs, and then we will also elect the 4 representatives that we send in addition to the vice president for graduate school affairs, who represent graduate professional students, graduate council. So we also have those 4 offices that will elect at these elections. The suggestion that I have for our scheduling, we need 3 meetings prior to the election for those nominations. March 5th, March 19th, and April 2nd would be those 3 days, 3 meetings prior to an election then. That also would be in that meeting, April 16th, when we have speeches, as well as then the voting, the balloting for those candidates that have been nominated. Spoken to Jordan about it, and that seems to be a good series of dates that fits it in. That would mean that in our next meeting, March 5th, we would open up those nominations for those positions to be elected for the next year. Have any discussion, questions, comments on those? All right, seeing none. The next item we have for new business would be the election commission for those GPSC elections. We did appoint Jordan to the commissioner position for that, but we do need to settle 2 additional members to the election commission by March 15th. Is the deadline for that. And Diana's not here, and so I don't know if she's going to continue to serve on the commission or not. I don't have a statement on that, and I have not heard back from Derek, who, if you remember, sort of stepped back from GPSC in the last few months. So I do believe we will need at least 1 additional nominee and appointment of someone to that election commission. If there's anyone that would like to volunteer for that, I would entertain such a motion.
What is this again?
This is the election commission, so it's a panel of at least 3 persons that are appointed to supervise the election of GPSC officers and graduate council representatives.
How much time does that take? I'm just.
Not a lot. For the most part, it just entails counting actual votes and then making sure that the election is held in accordance with the bylaws.
It's just like if there's a problem.
Yep. And in past practice, it's typically someone that is graduating and/or then persons that are not going up for election, just because the actual conflict. Do you have a second to that nomination? Lacey, second. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? All right. Fantastic. Thank you much, Lacey.
Yeah.
Okay, and then additional new business. I believe we have 2 funding bills for the fee allocation board. I wasn't able to update that agenda item for it, but I'll turn that over to you.
We have, Diana was here earlier to lead the fee allocation board meeting, and we have a proposal for $400 to go to the Cognitive Sciences Graduate Organization. They have a Brain and Cognitive Sciences speaker series on March 8th. And this is just to pay for the hotel and food. So, I need to motion to approve that.
So you call for a motion.
$400.
Motion to approve funding of the Cognitive Science Graduate Organization's Brain and Cognitive Science Speaker Series for the amount of $400. Motion. Seconded? Seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
And the second one is the barrister's ball with the law school, and that is $2,000. And I know that sounds like a lot, but after both of these come out, that'll leave us with $1,250, and the requests have to be submitted by the next meeting. So we are about done on these. So.
Sure. That's your. So the Student Bar Association, barrister's ball, motion from the FAB to approve $2,000 to fund that event. Does that have a second to that motion? Second. Any discussion?
What are these being used for?
Oh, sorry. It's to help pay for the venue and the catering and entertainment. It's been going on for about 30 years, as long as the law school's been going on. It's 30 years now.
Is it open to the public or just a?
Yes. It is, you do have to buy a ticket, but it's open to the public.
Make my date, please.
I'm down for it. Just send me your details.
Has GPSC funded that
Every year.
every year?
Every year.
We're actually funding them less than we have in the past. So 2,000 seems like a lot, but usually they get more.
Motion to end discussion?
We don't need to. Seeing no further discussion, move to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Fantastic. Thank you all. We're kind of breezing along.
Could you repeat how much we have left?
1,250 in the fund for this.
And the last day to apply for event funding's next meeting, so it's pretty much in the story.
Point of information, I suppose. Last day to apply for funding is the next meeting. Would that be for a hearing on the day of the meeting, or can one apply on March 5th and then have a hearing thereafter?
I think the last hearing is the have
That's my understanding, because then we have to start moving research.
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure that's understood, that if there is an RSO that wants to submit an application for funding from GPSC for the remainder of the semester, that application should be submitted probably like days prior to March 5th, our next scheduled meeting, which is the next scheduled meeting of the FAB, so that that application can be evaluated and funds potentially recommended. Very good. Moving on from new business, officer reports. I didn't have, do you have something from Diana for a report? I don't either. So in lieu of a report, from Vice President of Administrative Affairs. I'll hand it off to you, Jordan. Great.
The Executive Committee for Graduate Council met last week with interim Chancellor Dunn. There wasn't really anything big going on at that meeting, but it was nice to get to meet him. He said that the vacancy for Vice Chancellor of Research will be filled as soon as possible. And there was concern over Edwardsville now being considered a research institution and whether we should keep marketing ourselves as a research institution. He said absolutely. Doesn't care if it sounds annoying. We should definitely market ourselves that way. And there was concern for enrollment. We're trying to have more of an international approach, but he said not to worry, that research and the local areas will still be a focus as well. There's an executive committee this Thursday is our next one, and there is a naming a university facility committee meeting this Friday. I have no idea what it's for. I've been on the committee for 2 years and we've never met, so I'm pretty excited, and I'll keep you posted on that. And that's my report.
Any questions, Jordan? All right, yeah.
I don't know if this would be something that y'all would go over, but I do know that the language concerning funding for events through different student fees has changed, like through the Fine Arts Activity and other like bigger college level fees. But as far as I know, people have been getting different instructions in terms of language to use and to direct people towards. So I don't know if that would be something that y'all know about, but I do know that we've had some stuff with like the fees and reimbursement and stuff concerning grad students. So it seemed to fall into a similar nebulous area that was towards that.
Do you like the fee, student fee charge is different, or
No, like when different communities provide funds for events, some committees are being told to provide students with different language. So whereas before it would be like funded in part by the Fine Arts Activity fee, now they're saying to use different language to some of those committees, but not to others. And like different administrators are telling people different things. So I don't know if that affects us at all, or if that would be anything for that.
Yeah, that's a weird one. All right. Well, so my report, one that I'll put at the top of it is the ad hoc. We did order food, is the understanding, and it is potentially on the way. Or...
I called at 7:50 and they said that he was on his way.
Like he's on his way the first time?
Like, she said that he just left. Yeah.
That's
At 7:50.
But she called it 6.
Yeah. So it's potentially still showing up. So apologies. So I submitted my report with meeting reminder email. You have that in writing. I did attend both the Board of Trustees meetings, the executive session and the full board session. There was the discussion at the executive session of the Higher Learning Commission report, the allocation study status, and the nursing Bachelor of Science program in Carbondale. By and large, the Higher Learning Commission report was mostly related to the resolutions for the full board meeting and changing the reporting lines of the School of Medicine to the School of Law, which was passed in the full board meeting. It was pretty uncontroversial, more or less procedural, particularly for the School of Medicine. I was returning to something that was the arrangement prior to 2014, and it was pursued to come back into compliance with the requirements of the Higher Learning Commission, since the School of Medicine is not independently accredited by the HLC, whereas SIUC does have HLC accreditation. The allocation study status, Interim President Dorsey gave an overview of that in the discussion. In general, the thoughts on it were they did receive a report, about a 10-page report from the consultant that they hired to look into the issue. When they submitted that report, more or less, key observations he made were that there wasn't really any fixed formula that they found historically between the campuses. That there would be a need for a fair and adaptable formula that would need to fit within the SIU system vision, including a vision for how each campus fits into those system priorities. Those notes about some discussion that the formula should be simple for transparency, but sophisticated to meet the needs of both campuses. There's some discussion on and off about potentially an incentive fund that's held at the system level that would be allocated to campuses that are pursuing programming or specific initiatives that fall within those priorities set by the board and or the system president's office. Some principles that Dorsey mentions that should be considered for helping the determination on how to receive the recommendations from the consultant was the idea of whether or not the system and the medical school budget should be considered separate from whatever base amount then is divided between SIUE and SIUC, whether the board should actually retain a separate pot of money for incentive priorities that are independently allocated as a part of the system and board discretion, whether or not or to what degree the type of student matters, that being an undergraduate student or a graduate professional student, and how to actually handle deferred maintenance costs and overhead for any and all campuses, and whether those should be considered as a part of a separate budget. In general, there was a lot of frustration with the report that has already been received from the consultant, and the idea that it didn't really necessarily lead to a lot of determinate outcome. There's still the idea of more questions than answers. Is where a lot of members of the board felt like they were, to some degree the president included. They did agree to make the report that the consultant submitted in January public, but I have tried to find it online on the board's page, and as far as I can tell, it has not been made public on their website yet. And I will continue to follow up for those who are interested. With the nursing program, I don't know how familiar everyone else is. I've heard about it in just nearly every meeting I go to. Faculty at Carbondale are very interested in getting a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing approved for an independently administered Bachelor's of Nursing program. Here in Carbondale right now, there is a partnership program with Edwardsville's campus that offers students down here the ability to enroll in a bachelor's program, but it is a program that is administratively owned by SIUE. So there's an RME that is passed through our campus and is now sitting in the system president's office that would create a Carbondale specific Bachelor's of Science in Nursing program. So it would be Carbondale's program instead of the partnership. The president has not moved that RME to the Illinois Board of Higher Education, which would be the next step to evaluate that proposal for creating the degree and then submitting any recommendations for revision or approving it. It's something that, for the time being, the interim president, Dr. Dorsey, is hesitant to send forward to the Illinois Board of Higher Education for any number of reasons. Just to go all the way down to the bottom of that, the result is it's sort of unclear whether or not that RME will go forward to the Illinois Board of Higher Education. Our interim chancellor, Dr. Dunn, encouraged them to consider the notion of even if the IBHE approves that RME, that doesn't actually mean that the program would be created. It just gives us the ability to create it. Also, wanting some more evaluation and development of how the partnership between SIUE and SIUC for the existing BSN program could be improved. And then the probably a revision to the existing RME in the president's office for the program that would be specific to Carbondale. There was an online component of it that the president thought didn't need to be a part of that if the purpose is to train persons locally in Southern Illinois to address the need for nurses within the Southern Illinois region. I'll stop there if there's any questions on executive session. Concerns? No. For the full board meeting, they did do elections for new officers. The new executive committee, Judge Gilbert was elected the chair, Dr. Portland elected the vice chair, Joel Sambursky elected the secretary. Those same three individuals make up the executive committee that was elected. Board representatives, Trustee Britton was re-elected to the civil service representative from the state of Illinois from our board of trustees. And Gilbert, as chair, reappointed all of the committee persons and chairs as they were existing. In general, the report that came from our chancellor mirrored previous statements. I did talk about our responsibility in the sense of faculty, staff, everyone at campus to deliver on making students know that they make the right decision to come to SIUC. Talked again about the heads up university culture, the idea that you're engaged and interacting with everyone else on campus, and also emphasized again the idea of its personal approach to the university, outlining sort of four main areas to that in the sense of recruitment, retainment, academic organization, outreach, and resources. He emphasized that we are starting our 150th anniversary this March 6th. And he did make a comment to the effect of he thought that our predecessor, his predecessor, Chancellor Montemagno, was right on the reorganization, and the idea that those that have not acknowledged that plan as being the best way forward or haven't found the way forward that reorganization would work, that they will continue to work with them to find a solution within that notion of a reorganization as the way forward for the university. The exact specifics of what that means, not entirely clear. And then those reporting line resolutions for the School of Medicine, School of Law were passed. For our affair, or for SIUC affairs, I did go to Dean's Council this morning, give a presentation on how we might better coordinate and collaborate with the deans of colleges and programming and different activities that they have going on in colleges. I talked about our survey efforts, both the one that will occur this year, as well as the reports and presentation that will be coming from the last year's survey. I mentioned the department visits that we'll have coming up, as well as our 15 and 5 program plan, and encouraging broader membership in the Graduate Professional Student Council. Our executive board will be meeting with the interim chancellor here coming up next week, February 27th, that's a week from tomorrow. Submit anything that you would like for us to bring up as an executive board in that meeting. We got a week or so to get any of those topics, issues, remarks you wish us to share with the interim chancellor. You can go back to the student programs departments that you represent and send those forward. Also continue working on scheduling a visit from the interim chancellor to one of our council meetings. I did see that it even was signed by the governor today in faculty senate on February 12th. There was some remarks from the interim chancellor about the increase in Illinois state minimum wage that's going to actually affect 2,300 students that work at the university as student employees, and about 600 employees that are non-student employees, so staff. It's going to end up costing the university about $6.8 million to cover the increased costs of that increase to the minimum wage. Requested help with faculty or from faculty for retention. The new chancellor has expressed a number of times the idea of that quote that I have in there, the idea of never too busy to interact with the student. He's expressed that in a number of different narratives and stories a number of times. The idea of showing people that we care. And in the search for a new president, a new full-time president for the system. There's some evaluation within the board about where we actually have the system president's office. Right now, it's over in the Stone Center, technically, in Carbondale. It's actually on our campus, so we're kind of away from the law school a little bit. But there's some discussion on where exactly the best place might be to have the system president's office. And one of those options that's on the table is whether or not we move it to Springfield. And in fact, with the Senate, Chancellor Dunn did express that he supports the idea of moving the president's office to Springfield. It would put the president in that system office in more direct contact, essentially, with state politics, state legislation, decision makers that affect things like higher education funding, and those offices that affect things like our staff that are state employees, and I imagine other regulatory bodies like the Illinois Board of Higher Education. For constituency heads, mostly the same kinds of remarks that you had from the Chancellor in your meeting at Graduate Council. Again, same kinds of things. Glad to have all voices in the room. Provided an overview of all the meetings they had. Goals to be transparent. Wants to be accessible. Asking questions. Was some mention of the idea that the news coming from our university has not been good. Making a point to try and improve that. We do still have a high research activity status. Our library also has been recognized again with some accolades of being a great research library. Emphasized again, comprehensive research university, and some discussion of the reorganization in that constituency heads meeting. So the 7 RMEs that were sent to the president's office were sent to the Illinois Board of Higher Education for review. All others are still in some phase of development. And there was an extended discussion about, well, where are we going? We're a year and a half into this. What are we doing now? And so he brought up a recent meeting with the Faculty Association, in which their concerns about whether or not the board's vote on that resolution that gave the president the authority through the proposed reorganization to send those RMEs to the Illinois Board of Higher Education was a potential blanket approval of any reorganization and existing RMEs for schools. He iterated that no, that Board of Trustees vote was not a blanket approval for any RME to go forward to the system president, regardless of where they are now. Not a carte blanche approval. So some discussion over how long, to what extent, how realistic the reorganization is at its current status after a year and a half. What the notion of is, nothing stands still. Ultimately, decisions are going to have to be made, but some time frames that were thrown out was the idea that more or less we may be halfway through, and it would be another year and a half before we have settled into a final sort of structure under any kind of reorganization. All right, last little bit of my report. If there aren't any questions, keep going. All right, so the Campus and Community Affairs 15-5 continues to move along. We just heard tonight about the 1st number. Yeah, the survey. Yeah.
Okay, so I typed up this survey. I'm very, very, very tired, so there's typos, and I'm sorry. Please be nice to me. But essentially, we had planned to do one of the 15-5 was a mentorship panel workshop. And essentially, the survey is asking, did her presentation cover your needs, or do we actually need to do a mentorship workshop? Okay, so also, but be honest, right? So one of the questions is like, are you going to create a profile? If not, why? So be honest with the why, so that we know that we're actually like satisfying your needs and if we need to do more.
And what's a good consensus here? Continue with the report as we're passing this around and fill it out. How would you like to proceed here?
Continue.
That's consensus. Okay. Yeah, the remaining things that I have to announce are not real heavy. So the Graduate Professional Student Survey, the 2018 report of findings and the presentation for that is now scheduled for March 20th. It is the day after, 2 meetings from now, after spring break on a Wednesday. So we'll have a council meeting the night before, and then that Wednesday, 1 to 2 in the Illinois room here in the Student Center. I'm going to do a presentation of those results. Full release of all of the analytical reports and conclusions still to be determined. It's a lot of work. Anybody who wants to volunteer, more than happy. The 2019 survey is got its subject to the application under review and pending approval of some revisions. We anticipate the release of that survey on February 25th, February 26th, so we should get it out. There will be an email going out to all graduate professional students for that. And if you can, please share that with those students in your departments. It's a great opportunity to get an understanding of what's going on for everyone at the university and make some informed decisions with real empirical evidence to try and improve what is going on at the university. GPSC election, commissioner confirmed, additional member confirmed, and the dates of nominations and constituency affairs. So the outreach with the department visits, I am going to start scheduling those. We have a small team of folks that are helping me with that from the executive board. If there's anyone that would like to also volunteer for that, help out, that would be much appreciated. Basically just going to go around and have meetings, in particular with those areas, those programs, those departments that we do not have representatives from, to make sure that they know about the opportunities that we have and the advocacy that we can engage in for them. Already covered Salukis in Springfield. We are still waiting for the confirmation of receiving the $1,500 from the Alumni Association. Waiting confirmation for the $300 from the graduate school for funding last year's survey. And we did submit the transfer for the $1,500 to pay the applied research consultants for the work they did on last year's survey. Waiting for some feedback from the Office of the Chancellor on the Culture of Respect purchase proposal for a new Title IX training program. Still doing a bunch of stuff as far as old records and things, trying to get it organized. And one big announcement that I cannot remember if I sent that paperwork forward. I don't think I did because I don't think that's something I can share. But I received from Chair Gilder of the Board of Trustees a solicitation to submit 2 nominees to the SIU Presidential Search Advisory Committee. And they will appoint one of those nominees that the Graduate Professional Student Council, or I guess the Office of the President for GPSC, submits to the advisory board for the search for a new full-time president for the system. Those nominations are due February, and so I wanted to mention that as part of our meeting. So anybody that is interested in serving on that advisory committee for the search for new system president, go ahead and reach out, share your information, express that you're interested, and I'll put that under consideration. I'm evaluating my options as far as who I might nominate to that advisory committee. Let's see. And that would conclude my report. If there's any questions, comments, discussion?
How about the party that's going on downstairs?
I think it's probably upstairs. There's the Delta room on the 4th floor. And for any of you that were here last year, you'll remember because we met in this room consistently last year. It's definitely reoccurring. There's always someone upstairs with music and activity.
I think they still like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just heard a party and that's where they delivered the food.
Yeah.
I did actually have one more thing. For the 15 and 5, the reorganization panel, we do have 2 potential dates of when that would occur, and that'd be March 19th or March 26th. If it's the 19th, then it will take place before our regularly scheduled meeting. And if it's the 26th, I think it'll be at 7:30, our regular meeting time. We did extend an invitation to USQ to join us, and I don't believe we've heard back yet, but that's all being worked out.
Our last item of business is just open the floor for good of the order. Any announcements? I sent out a couple of flyers. In particular, we had that flyer for the Creative Activities and Research Forum that GPSC is collaborating with the Office for the Vice Chancellor of Research and the Graduate School on that. We're going to help them get judges to review the abstracts and posters that are submitted to it. And we, as far as I understand, are going to also incorporate our research awards as a part of that day and event. So you have the flyer in that meeting reminder for that, as well as a few others. Is there any other business or announcement, discussion? Bring up? Yeah.
Big Money is this week, the film festival. There are posters around. You should go see the movies. You pay for it a little bit. So you should go.
And when the movies are not playing during the day on Friday, you should come to the Association of English Graduate Students and Instructors, Graduate Instructors and Students, AEGIS conference, which will be held on the 7th floor of the library. And it'll run from 10 to 4:30 on Friday, and then from 11 to 4 on Saturday. And there will be goodies, especially on Saturday. Quiche. And thank you for approving our funding too. That was very nice of you.
Anna wanted me to let people know the next JU happy hour is on February 28th from 7 to 9 at the Cellar. So come and get more information.
Free beer.
And free beer. Yeah.
So that's when?
February 28th.
28th. Do a giant conference call.
Make sure that the order went through.
Anything else from anyone?